Hi, and welcome to today's My Fair webinar. My name is Shannon Garrett. I am the Chief Strategy Officer for the Michigan Women's Commission, and I will be the presenter today for our My Fair webinar on the My TriShare childcare program. I'm joined today by Bethany James for sign language interpretation. Thank you, Bethany. Before I get into the presentation, a little bit of background. The Michigan Women's Commission was created by statute in 1968 with 15 commissioners who are appointed by the governor, currently Governor Gretchen Whitmer, to serve 3-year terms. The Women's Commission's duties include reviewing the status of women in Michigan, directing attention to critical problems confronting women, and recognizing women's accomplishments and contributions to the state. Because our most recent surveys and conversations with Michigan women found an overwhelming emphasis on economic security issues, Governor Whitmer recently moved our commission to the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity to ensure that we have productive collaborations that benefit women's prosperity around the state. So you can learn more about the Michigan Women's Commission at Michigan.gov/MWC. And last fall, the U.S. Department of Labor Women's Bureau granted us a FAIR grant. FAIR, F-A-R-E, stands for Fostering Access, Rights, and Equity. And the purpose is to help women workers who earn low wages access all of their employment rights and benefits. And so using the FAIR grant, the Michigan Women's Commission developed this My Fair webinar series to share information with women around the state. And each month we focus on a different benefit, program, or workplace right, such as today's presentation about splitting your childcare costs with the state and your employer using the My TriShare childcare program. Every webinar and the related resources are shared on our commission's website, as well as a direct link to all of the materials at Michigan.gov/FARE, FAIR, Michigan.gov/FAIR. And now I'm going to bring my slides on screen for today's webinar. As I'm doing that, just to let you know that you can turn on your closed captioning or transcription by clicking on the appropriate icon on your screen and using the chat box to ask questions. All of the slides will be shared on our website following this presentation. So here we are with today's presentation on the My TriShare childcare program. So in late 2019, early 2020, before the pandemic, the Michigan Women's Commission was conducting some of our conversations with women around the state in order to learn what women needed to be successful in Michigan. And wherever we went in the state, whether it was the UP, whether it was Southeast Michigan, Southwest Michigan, economic security issues were always at the top, and primarily childcare. And the cost of childcare was the most typical concern for women in the state. And then the pandemic hit in early 2020, and that really put the spotlight on the issue. So because of childcare issues around, concern for our children's health, our own health, our family's health, and the costs with people being maybe not having as many hours at work, not having any work, the cost of childcare really became even more of an issue for families. And we saw nearly 160,000 women leave the workforce since that shutdown started around February, March of 2020. And in particular, in this recovery period that we've had since then, women with children who are ages 13 and younger have been the slowest to return to the pre-pandemic employment levels. We don't know exactly why, but we can ascertain from the data and from anecdotal stories that a lot of that has to do with childcare. So we, as a culture, need a culture change around care work, both in childcare and with our growing elder care crisis. But until then, we have come up with policies like TriShare that are great ways to start helping families remain in the workforce while returning to work. because we know that childcare is integral to the economic stability of Michigan families. And the My Tri-Share childcare program helps parents work, which is the foundation to our overall economic recovery. So the My Tri-Share childcare pilot project started as an innovative approach to increasing access to high quality, affordable childcare for working families, while also helping employers to retain talent and remove one of the major barriers to employment. So it's bringing together businesses and state resources to alleviate financial burdens on families. It's an innovative program, the first of its kind in the country. And through this program, TriShare splits the cost of a family's licensed childcare evenly between the employers, the employee, and the state of Michigan. And in particular, it especially helps the ALICE population. And ALICE is an acronym for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So essentially those folks who are working, but who are above the income eligibility thresholds for most public benefits, but who don't earn quite the wages that would be considered a living wage for that region. So they're those families who are essentially one accident away, one emergency away from a financial crisis. And TriShare helps remove childcare as one of those main barriers for those families. The program has succeeded legislatively because of strong bipartisan support. It's an idea born from a collaboration between businesses and community interests, with champions in the Michigan legislature and strong support from the governor. So it started in 2021 as a pilot project in 3 regions, but thanks to continued funding from the state of Michigan, along with support from foundations like the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and the Balmer Group, the My Tri-Share pilot program has now grown into a regular program, no longer a pilot, and now serves 59 of Michigan's 83 counties, plus the city of Detroit. So we expect that it will continue to grow so that TriShare will be available as an option to employers of any size anywhere in the state of Michigan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of the My TriShare program to employers, to employees, and to childcare providers. So the My TriShare benefits employers by helping with the retention of current employees and the recruitment of new ones, because it removes that significant barrier to employment for a lot of families. The cost of childcare can take up so much of a family's income that some families decide it makes more sense for one of the parents to stay home full-time rather than to work full-time. So in lowering a family's childcare costs by 66%, the Michigan TriShare program allows more parents to enter and remain in the workforce, further developing and strengthening our talent pipeline. So one example of this is Wolverine Coil Springs. They reported to us that they had an employee named Melissa who'd been working in this mid-sized manufacturing company for 12 years, making a good living and consistently being promoted. She became a single mother recently, however, and her childcare cost was over $800 a month. It was almost as much as her mortgage payment. So she was struggling as a single mom to put, gas in the car, pay her monthly bills, afford her childcare. So she told her employer that she may need to leave her job because of these costs, especially the cost of childcare. But then her employer, Wolverine Coil Springs, enrolled in TriShare to be able to pick up a third of Melissa's childcare costs. And then that allows the state to pick up a third of Melissa's childcare costs, leaving her with only paying $200 a month now. So Melissa has been able to stay in her job that she says she loves, and Wolverine Coil Springs retained a loyal and valuable employee. We also heard from another employer, a small insurance agency that had 5 employees. They had offered a woman who was working with them part-time, they offered her a full-time position 3 times. They offered her this full-time position, and she kept not taking them up on a full-time job offer because of the cost of childcare. She could not afford the full-time childcare it would need for her to work for a full-time job. So when the agent heard about the My TriShare program at a chamber meeting, they signed up, brought it back to the employee, offered her TriShare as a benefit, and then she was able to accept the full-time job. So she's now working full-time and is in a more lucrative sales position. So there's a number of benefits to employers participating in the TriShare program. And in a recent survey that we took of the participating employees, all of the employers stated that they're able to retain employees because of this program and that they expect to use TriShare as a recruitment tool in the future. So that was the benefits to the employers. Now let's talk about the working parents, the employees. It's perhaps obvious that My TriShare has many benefits for working parents, but it's especially beneficial to those who are not eligible for the state's child care subsidy. As you may know, during the pandemic, Governor Whitmer kept child care businesses open by signing a record $1.4 billion child care subsidy to include more working families in the subsidy program. So now, as of this recording, this webinar, a family of 4 in Michigan earning up to $55,500 is eligible for free or low-cost childcare assistance through the Child Development and Care Program, also known as the CDC or the Child Care Subsidy. But the cost of childcare remains a significant obstacle for families in that ALICE population that we talked about, those folks who make too much to be eligible for that child care subsidy, but still struggle to be able to afford child care at the income that they're at. And that's where My TriShare comes in. It can be a major support for families. My TriShare covers employees with income levels at or below 325% of the federal poverty line, and who are not otherwise eligible for that child care subsidy. So that means that a family of 4 earning up to $90,000 is eligible if their employer agrees to participate in the program. This alone would cut a family's child care expenses by 66%, because the employee would be paying only 1/3 of the cost, with the other 2/3 being picked up by the employer and the state of Michigan. It also allows parents to know that their children are receiving care in structured learning environments. A couple of parents that we heard from through the survey talked about summer care as an example, that they were using neighborhood teens to watch their kids during the summer, teens who were, quote, basically watching my kids watch TV. And so because their employer is participating in My TriShare, now those employees can afford summer care that is full-time, that is licensed, and that has structured learning activities for their children. And then, as we shared in some of the examples, it also helps parents to remain in the workforce. We did learn of a woman, an employee of one of the participating employers, who was talking with a colleague who had left working for that employer because of childcare issues. So when the employer signed up for My TriShare, this woman went and shared with her friend, hey, this is a benefit that they have now. And now that former employee has returned to work at the same employer because the childcare issues, childcare cost is being shared. And My TriShare helps all kinds of parents. But we know, and the reality is, it's very often women in the family who have to make that choice between working or staying home to care for children. So there's a variety of factors in those decisions, but the cost of childcare compared to their income from working is usually the major reason. So now, with more employers participating in TriShare, more women in particular can remain in the workforce or return to the workforce. And then it's also worth noting that My TriShare has benefits for childcare providers. Because TriShare uses regional facilitator hubs to collect the payment shares from the employee, the employer, and the state of Michigan, childcare providers are ensured reliable and consistent payments for their services in one lump payment. And through TriShare, facilitator hubs are also helping the participating employee find available local childcare that meets their family's specific needs. So the parents are always in control, always choosing their own licensed childcare. But TriShare helps more providers promote their services and potentially fill any vacant slot. And as I mentioned, My TriShare uses regional facilitator hubs to administer the program. These hubs are local organizations grounded in the community with experience serving the childcare needs of families. And these facilitator hubs leverage their community relationships to recruit employers to participate in the program, and then to assist those employers with recruiting eligible employees to sign up. If participating employees do not already have childcare, the facilitator hubs can help connect them to available childcare in the area. They can help them find local childcare that meets their family's needs. And then, as I mentioned, the hubs collect those payment shares from the employers, the employees, and the state of Michigan to pay childcare providers in one total sum. So if you're interested in learning more about the TriShare program, you can check out the website at Michigan.gov/TriShare. And I'll note that it works with or without the hyphen in TriShare. So if you head to Michigan.gov/TriShare, you can learn more. There you can find information specifically for employers, for employees, and for childcare providers. And you can find lots of additional information about the program, like all of the frequently asked questions and the program guidelines, as well as a way to search for the facilitator hub and the current participating employers in your region. So if you hit that search for regions or employers icon, you'll come to a page where it will list all of the pilot program regions. And then underneath that, it lists contact information for that facilitator hub, as well as the employers that are currently participating. Try to keep that updated on a monthly basis. And you can also find on the page promotional resources. So if you are currently a family member sitting at home thinking this would be really great and I wish that my employer offered it, you can come to the resources page to find videos, find emails, find the one-pager descriptions about it that you can share with your employer to start that conversation. If you're an employer, you can find information there on how to get the word out to your employees to let them know this is something that's offered. If you're a community member, you can find information there as well. There's videos for employers, there's videos for employees, videos for childcare providers, social media toolkit, and all of that kind of stuff. And for all things related to TriShare or women in Michigan in particular, you can contact the Michigan Women's Commission for more information. Again, the TriShare website is Michigan.gov/TriShare. The Women's Commission website is Michigan.gov/MWC. And then we have the email there that you can contact us for information about the commission, TriShare, anything else that we do at leo-mywomenscom@michigan.gov. So I'll stop sharing there and I'll see if there are any questions that we have in the chat. And while I look at that, I will say that there was one question that came up here about how My TriShare childcare can help working parents to earn more money. I think it helps working parents earn more in the long run because it frees up that parent to be able to take advantage of opportunities as they come along. So there was that example of someone who was able to take a promotion because of it, or somebody who could go from part-time to full-time at their employer. It also allows working parents to be able to take advantage of technical training and educational opportunities that are available through that employer, so that those folks can continue to move up the ladder into higher paying jobs within that employer. And then one of the other questions I see here is, how do I get my employer to sign up? And that's a great question. Again, we just talked about the resources that are available on the website. I would encourage it, all depends on the size of your employer. If it's a smaller employee, you can usually go directly to the owner or your immediate supervisor, talk about the program, share that you saw this information. You can even share this webinar will be available on our YouTube soon. Or you could download some of those fact sheets. If it's a larger employer that you work for, you may want to start the conversation with HR. That's usually where most people are finding success. So that's that. So thank you all for joining us today to learn about the My TriShare program. And as I mentioned, this will be available. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel, as well as the slide presentation itself will be shared in the description on the, in the description on the YouTube recording, as well as on our website at Michigan.gov/fair. So thank you again to Bethany for providing sign language services today, and thank you all for joining us.